I'm Margot Wijnen. I'm a professor of Process and Energy Systems Engineering at Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands. Besides, I'm Scientific Director of Next Generation Infrastructures, which is a knowledge platform of infrastructure providers in the Netherlands. In my spare time, I love to read, to play the piano, I grow orchids, and I love a great deal of outdoor activity, such as walking and horseback riding. Welcome to the second part of Level 4 for the CAPSIM stepwise module on Systems Engineering. You have just heard in the previous video my colleague's discussion on industrial symbiosis, which is also a concept within Level 4, which is about systems change and system improvements. In Wikipedia, systems engineering is explained as an interdisciplinary field of engineering and engineering management that focuses on how to design and manage complex systems over their life cycles. The term systems engineering is used to describe a systems thinking approach to the organization of people and processes for the design, production and management of complex engineered systems, such as, for example, an aircraft or a telecommunication system. Complex engineered systems comprise of a multitude of components that work in synergy to collectively perform a useful function. In this description, there are many elements which apply to industrial symbiosis networks, such as collective performance and synergy. Systems thinking is needed to establish such an industrial network. To understand a symbiotic industrial system, we need multiple perspectives. In the physical dimension of the system, we see networks of material flows, water and heat flows being engineered to increase the overall material and energy efficiency of the industrial network and reduce its emissions, its impact on the environment. However, to make this physical network formation happen, the individual plant owners and operators must be willing to invest and work together. So it requires a collective understanding of the multi-plant system and an awareness of collective interest in the synergies to be achieved by working together. Moreover, the actors need to agree on the distribution of costs, benefits and risks, including liabilities in case of operational mishaps. In other words, besides the technical perspective, we need a social perspective to understand how to bring an industrial network into being. So, when looking at the system from a social perspective, we see another network. A network comprising of multiple actors, with information and financial flows between the actors. In fact, we have now defined a so-called socio-technical system, comprising of physical and social networks. You can think of the physical network as governed by causal relationships, which are defined by the laws of nature, whereas the social network is governed by intentional relationships. Actors in the network each have their own goals and strategies. Interactions within the social network and actors' interactions with the physical network are shaped by institutions. Institutions are defined as systems of established and prevailing social rules that structure social interactions. An important category of interactions in the multi-actor network are the economic transactions, which involve transfers of ownership and decision rights. To understand the role of institutions in shaping transactions, we have to understand that transactions may incur substantial costs. Institutions are useful as they enable and constrain economic transactions and reduce transaction costs. Institutions are the set of formal and informal rules that define how the system works and how it is operated. Oliver Williamson defines a hierarchy of institutions in his work on institutional economics. We will take a brief look at this now. At the highest level are informal customs, traditions deeply embedded in society. At the next level is the institutional environment, which specifies the rules of the game to be played. Such rules are contained in laws and regulation and define, for example, whether we are operating in a competitive market or in a different type of regulated environment. The institutions at the lower levels of the hierarchy define the play of the game, such as in the shaping of contracts or at the very bottom level in the setting of prices for goods and services. Institutions are indispensable for the efficient coordination of transactions. However, the significance of institutions goes even far beyond the socio-economic domain. Institutions also deeply affect the design and operation of the technical systems, for example through emission standards, technical standards and operating procedures. But now I would like to add even another level of complexity. Let us zoom out now from the industrial side, where a network of plant owners and operators consider material and energy exchanges in a symbiotic industrial network. What we then see is that this local industrial network is just a node in a multitude of global supply chains, in fact global supply networks, that source raw materials in different parts of the world and process these materials and deliver goods and services to consumers in other parts of the world. And this system of global interacting material flows is enabled by global energy systems, by global telecommunications, by global banking, and in fact all these supporting systems are complex adaptive systems in themselves. The dynamics of these supply networks are largely determined by global markets and geopolitical developments. However, it is not easy to see how different supply chains interact, as the different segments of each chain reside in different countries, in different institutional environments, as these are to a large extent defined at a national level. And this makes the overall networked system highly complex. The multitude and variety of interactions between the actors and physical installations in the system of interconnected supply chains make the overall system exhibit nonlinear, non-predictable, so-called emergent behavior. And such systems are known as complex adaptive systems. Both in nature and in the man-made world, we find many examples of such evolving systems, ranging from living cells to ecosystems and cities. Complex adaptive socio-technical systems can exhibit self-organizing capability, and industrial symbiosis is an example of self-organization at the local level, in fact enabled by local institutions. Last but not least now, let me emphasize that as consumers of the goods and services produced, we ourselves are also part of the system. Let me show you how material intensity developed in different world regions. Population growth, increasing wealth, and technological innovation are the key drivers of material consumption. Technological innovation is a double-edged sword. It can lead to increased material intensity, but it can also reduce material intensity. Have a look here at the material consumption in Europe and in North America in the period between 2000 and 2010. And you can see that these two world regions managed to reduce their material consumption despite population growth and economic growth in that same period, thanks to technological innovation. Worldwide, however, the extraction of material resources is still increasing, as many parts of the world are still in need of infrastructure, at least in need of better infrastructure and better housing. And as a result, we are still adding to the substantial reservoir of accumulated material stocks in the global economy. Ultimately, we as consumers hold the key to the future evolution of the industrial system. Consumer choices, whether or not and how to consume, will shape the evolution of the manufacturing and supply system. To this end, it is extremely important that consumers can take informed decisions. They must be informed on the life cycle impacts of goods and services, so that they can make responsible consumption decisions. Therefore, in order to bring systems thinking down to earth and enable consumers to make it operational in their consumption behavior, an extensive information and knowledge base is essential. Fortunately, there is some good news for the future. At the highest institutional level, in many Western economies, signs can be seen of a value shift in society, favoring sharing rather than possessing, for example, with the development of car sharing schemes. And we also see signs of a value shift favoring reuse and recycling rather than buying new stuff. Such a value shift in society occurs at the top level in Williamson's institutional framework, and this sets the scene for the emergence of new formal institutions in law and regulations at lower levels of the framework. As public support for a more sustainable use of precious natural resources is growing, it is only a matter of time for the rules of the game to be redefined through new institutions. The systems perspective builds upon the other levels of the CAPSEM stepwise model. Systems engineering relies on tools and analytical methods from previously presented levels to evaluate the sustainability of integrated industrial networks. It links sustainable business creation, environmental management, and corporate social responsibility. Let us now see how this works out in industrial practice, in the business of Uniper.
Uniper is an international energy company that mainly focuses on large-scale energy trade and generation. So we produce electricity from coal, gas, nuclear, but also hydro. And we do a lot of trading in commodities such as gas, coal, but also some other businesses. The energy system is of course a very interlinked and interdependent system. There are many individual technical systems, such as an individual power plant or individual turbines. There's the network, there's district heating networks that are connected to it. And I think what we're going to see in the future is that more and more of these technologies and also sectors are going to be co-integrated with each other. So the electricity sector is going to deliver electricity to, for instance, electric vehicles, which it hasn't done before. But this also gives the opportunity to interlink them in order to smartly charge, for instance, your electric car when the wind is blowing or the sun is shining. I was trained at TU Delft as a system engineer, and this is where you learn how technologies work together and form a bigger system. These technologies together form a bigger system, and also the overlying rules and policies that affect the system, and above that even like economic thinking about how the system interlinks. I think it's very useful because, for instance, a practical example, what I experienced roughly half a year ago. The Netherlands wanted to implement a minimum CO2 price for CO2 emissions for the electricity sector in the Netherlands. And because the European system is all interlinked, this would have an effect on the entire system. So a change in one place would really ripple out to the entire Western European electricity system. And being able to understand these mechanisms and then also explaining it to the different stakeholders that are connected to this system is very important.
Thank you for joining us and watching the entire CAPSEM video series. We hope you now have gained insight into an effective approach to sustainability across the different interrelated levels. Thank you.